Trade wars? They sound bad, because they are. Right now, we're in the middle of a big one. Countries around the world are slapping tariffs on each other's goods. It's like a messy food fight, but with money and jobs at stake. How did we get here? What does it all mean? Buckle up, because things are about to get complicated. So what exactly is a tariff? It's basically a tax on imported goods. Let's say you're America, and you want to protect your domestic widget industry. You slap a big tariff on widgets coming in from China. Suddenly, Chinese widgets are more expensive for American consumers. The idea is to encourage people to buy American-made widgets instead. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. The problem is tariffs rarely work out the way they're intended. They often lead to retaliation, with other countries imposing their own tariffs in response. That's exactly what's happening now. The US has imposed tariffs on Chinese goods, and China has fired back with tariffs of its own. The result? A full-blown trade war that's hurting everyone involved. This isn't just about widgets anymore. We're talking about billions of dollars worth of goods, from soybeans and smartphones to cars and chemicals. The longer this trade war drags on, the more damage it will inflict on the global economy. And the worst part is, it's not clear if anyone will actually win. When we talk about the trade war, it's easy to focus on the two biggest elephants in the room, the US and China. But they're not the only ones feeling the heat. This is a global fight with a whole cast of characters. Think of it like a reality TV show, but with higher stakes and fewer spray tans. The European Union, for example, is caught in the crossfire. They trade heavily with both the US and China, so any disruption to global trade flows hits them hard. Then there are countries like Canada and Mexico, who are deeply integrated with the US economy through NAFTA. They're facing tariffs on their exports to the US, which is hurting their businesses and workers. But it's not just the traditional economic powers that are feeling the pinch. Emerging markets like India, Brazil, and South Africa are also being affected. They rely on global trade for their economic growth, and the uncertainty created by the trade war is making it harder for them to attract investment and create jobs. The truth is, this trade war is hurting everyone. Consumers are facing higher prices, businesses are dealing with disrupted supply chains, and investors are getting nervous. The longer it goes on, the more difficult it will be to put the genie back in the bottle. We're all in this together, whether we like it or not. Here's the thing about trade wars. They're expensive. And guess who ends up paying the price? That's right, it's you and me, the average consumers. Those shiny new tariffs might sound good in a political speech, but they translate into real pain at the checkout counter. Remember those widgets we talked about earlier? Well, now that they're more expensive, you might think twice about buying that new widget-powered blender you've had your eye on. Or maybe you'll have to cut back on something else to make ends meet. Either way, it's your wallet that's taking the hit. And it's not just consumer goods that are affected. Tariffs on raw materials and components mean that businesses have to pay more for their inputs. Those costs are often passed down to consumers in the form of higher prices for everything from cars and appliances to food and clothing. The trade war is also disrupting global supply chains, which were already strained by the pandemic. Businesses are having trouble getting the parts and materials they need, which leads to delays and shortages. That means you might have to wait longer for your new phone, or pay more for that out-of-stock item. Not exactly a recipe for economic prosperity, is it? Section 4, Winners and Losers, an uneven battlefield. It's tempting to think of a trade war as a zero-sum game, with clear winners and losers, but the reality is far more complex. While some sectors may benefit from protectionist policies, many others are likely to suffer. It's a game of economic musical chairs, and no one wants to be the one left standing when the music stops. One sector that's often touted as a potential winner in a trade war is domestic manufacturing. The idea is that tariffs will make imported goods more expensive, giving domestic producers a competitive edge. However, this assumes that domestic manufacturers have the capacity and the willingness to ramp up production to meet increased demand. In many cases, that's simply not realistic. On the other hand, sectors that rely heavily on global supply chains or export markets are likely to be hit hardest by the trade war. Take the auto industry, for example. Cars are incredibly complex products with parts sourced from all over the world. Tariffs on imported components drive up costs, making it harder for automakers to compete on price. The tech sector is another area of concern. From smartphones and laptops to semiconductors and software, the tech industry relies heavily on global trade. Tariffs and other trade barriers threaten to disrupt these flows, stifling innovation and hurting both businesses and consumers. Section 5. Conclusion: a changing world order. The current trade war is more than just a squabble over tariffs. It's a symptom of a deeper shift in the global economic order. For decades, the U.S. has been the undisputed champion of free trade, using its economic might to promote open markets and globalization. But that era may be coming to an end. The rise of China as an economic superpower has challenged the U.S.'s dominance, leading to tensions over trade, technology, and geopolitical influence. The trade war is just one manifestation of this broader competition, and it's unlikely to be resolved anytime soon. The long-term consequences of this trade war are still uncertain. Some experts believe that it could lead to a decoupling of the US and Chinese economies, with each country developing its own separate supply chains and technological standards. Others argue that the economic pain inflicted by the trade war will eventually force both sides to back down and reach a compromise. One thing is for sure, the global trade landscape is changing, and the rules of the game are being rewritten. Whether this leads to a more fragmented and uncertain world or a new era of cooperation and prosperity remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: the stakes are high, and the choices we make today will have far-reaching consequences for years to come.